Hi, everybody. I hope I hope everybody was able to see a countdown and that I'm now here. Thank you for joining us. I'm Helen with One Structural doing a Balcony 1 presentation today. As always, our three divisions are Retrofit 1 for seismic retrofitting, ADU 1 accessory dwelling units, especially for multifamily ADUs, and Balcony 1, everything about SB721 and SB326, the required balcony, deck, walkway inspection laws. So we're going to go over all of the general rules, how to be in compliance with both bills, as well as something I have not done yet before, go over our recent report that we just did, a sample report. So you can at least take a look at what ours look like. We've seen a lot of reports so far, especially if we are reached out to for any repairs or waterproofing or just help understanding reports. And they kind of all look the same. So which I guess is pretty good. They're all fairly consistent in terms of how the report looks. So I think taking a look at ours will give you a good idea of what to expect. But I'll also point out some things that maybe ours includes that we have not seen in others. So if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to add them in the chat and I will get to them as soon as I can. Otherwise, I will share my screen now. And just excuse me, I'm kind of getting over a little cold thanks to my toddler. All right, so if you can see this, hopefully, this will begin our presentation. So I'll kind of fairly quickly go through this so we can get into the sample report, especially since I know a lot of you have already completed your inspections and are now wondering what to do next, what to do if there are recommendations or suggestions. So basically it's what we call post-inspection services. So I'll be going over a compliance step as well as post-inspection services. So as a general recap, these both bills were created in 2019. So it's actually been quite some time. So I know you might be just hearing about this or thinking it's brand new. It's not. It was effective in 2019. And this was because of what happened at UC Berkeley when the balcony collapsed with many students on it and they died. And that was due to a lot of structural issues, waterproofing, a lot of issues that unfortunately occurred and caused the balcony to collapse. So this is a statewide law. It is not just for Los Angeles. It's not just for local counties. It is statewide and affects all buildings with 3 or more units that have beyond just balconies. Some people think that if they don't have balconies, they're exempt, but you may have common walkways that connect all of the unit entrances. So those are absolutely subject to the law. So it's any type of exterior elevated element, effective 2019. And so for SB 721, that applies to only apartments, and you must get that done every 6 years. For SB 326, that's for HOAs and condos, that's every 9 years. But everybody has the same first deadline, which is January 1st, 2025. That's less than 8 months away. So what is an exterior elevated element? It is something like a balcony, walkway, landing, stairways, decks, porches, and their supportive elements such as handrails that also must get inspected. We're also looking at the waterproofing elements, so the surface, the deckings, the flashings, everything like that, as well as please note that the law also requires that the inspector observes the load-bearing components, which let's say you're looking at a balcony like this. So although that is stuccoed, inside there's wood framing, there's joists that run, of course, inside the building, and they protrude out of the building to create your balcony. So that is really what we're looking at, because if that's compromised, then the whole element is compromised. So in order to do that, I think I'll get into it, how we test in order to see it. Some companies are only doing a visual, they're just walking on it, and then they're telling you, okay, you have to test and look at all of them on the inside, which you just don't have to do. It's unnecessary, but you have to do it for some of them, of course. So during the inspection, or at least during our inspection, we, of course, do a visual of your elements. We observe the deck surface. We're looking for any cracks, staining, deficiencies, anything like that in your waterproofing system. On the underside, we do a borehole. It's about 2 inches that we drill on the underside. We insert an endoscopic camera in order to then observe your load-bearing components. Without doing this borehole and the endoscopic camera, there's no way to see it unless you already have a non-stucco element. Sometimes it's just treated wood and already exposed, but most have stucco on them, and you have to do this. For SB721, we have to do this for 15% of each type of element. For SB326, we have to do it on virtually all of them. So where this, well, we don't do the 15%, or I'm sorry, we don't do the endoscopic camera boreholes on all of them. We do a visual for all of them under SB326. And any element that fails the visual, meaning it has, visually evident cracks, staining, damage, issues like that, where we highly suspect water intrusion and other problems, those get flagged under SB 326. And then that's when we do the borehole testing. So don't worry, we don't do that for every single element, especially large HOA communities. We're not doing 1,000 boreholes, unless sadly, if you have thousands of cracks, but we have yet to see that. Under SB 721, we do it for 15%. And so the reason I brought up how some companies may only do a visual is because in the report, they're going to say we recommend doing either the borehole endoscopic testing or destructive testing, which is a step further, more invasive. It includes several square feet of stucco being removed. They recommend it for every single element in order to meet those requirements. Again, that's a bit extra and unnecessary. Only 15% is recommended or required, I'd say required. And so you don't want to end up paying twice. So just keep that in mind when comparing quotes. We include both methods. So as mentioned, SB 721s for apartment buildings, 3 or more units, and 15% of each type, meaning 15% of balconies, 15% of the linear feet of your walkways, and so forth. And the inspection is required every 6 years. Unlike SB 326, condos, HOA, 3+ units, the law requires that the inspector has a 95% certainty, which again really boils down to virtually all elements will get visually inspected. And in our case, those that get flagged with any issues or deficiencies will get that next borehole and endoscopic testing done. And for SB 326, this is required every 9 years. For those of you just hopping in, don't worry, these do get recorded. So you can just message me if you came here from my flyer, and I can send you the link. So what do we count or measure? So this is our first step when you ask for a quote. We do this, of course, free of charge, but we need to measure the linear feet of your walkways, just like in these photos. So if you don't have balconies, but you only have these walkways, you're definitely subject to the law. So we measure these walkways, and your quote, of course, is based on the length of these walkways, the number of walkways, number of balconies and their size, stairways, landings, decks, balconies such as this, walkways. So every building is going to be a different price. That's probably our biggest question right now. How much is it? We don't know how much it is until we know how many elements that you have. So we call this an element count. We also get this question. On the left-hand side of my slides, you see these kind of semi-recessed balconies. These are absolutely still subject to the law because the edge of the building or the building's envelope are where the sliders are, not where the edge of the balcony is, because there's a cavity under each of these balconies. So if there were any deficiencies or if the structural components were compromised, this balcony could still collapse and fall to the people below. So these types of recessed balconies are subject. The only time they're not is if This was enclosed and enclosed structurally, not just you enclosing it with a piece of wood. It has to meet code, and if it's official dwelling space, then you would be exempt. Here's more samples: stairway, landings, walkways, more walkways and balconies. So here's some exempt, some Juliet balconies, completely exempt. They're over dwelling space. So this is a different type of structure in between. And this enclosed balcony, also exempt. I mean, enclosed stairway, also exempt. Let's see, I think I already went over all of this. SB721, 15% of each type. Part of this inspection, first part is your inspection, and then you get a detailed compliance report, which is stamped by either one of our engineers or our architect as required by law. And then here are just some examples. If you have 13 balconies, we would be doing that bore scope testing to 2 of them. If you have 87 linear feet of walkway, we'd be testing and inspecting 14 linear feet just for apartment buildings. Again, SB326, HOAs or condos, virtually all of them. So do your element count, review your quotes. When you're ready to go, we schedule the inspection. Our coordination team handles all of the scheduling, notices, tenant or resident coordination for the day of the inspection. Especially, let's say you have a 3-story building and we do have to access, sometimes we do have to access a unit in order to reach the, like a 3rd-story balcony. We would handle that coordination, make sure the resident is okay, chooses a time that they're home. We just pass through and we get it over with. Then when the inspection is complete, it takes about 45 days, you get your detailed report. The report will have any suggestions, recommendations. If there are any severely hazardous, imminent threat repairs needed, we would let you know. And of course, we would recommend restricting access. If there aren't any or just some waterproofing recommendations, we would also let you know. And if everything passes, yes, you get a clean bill of health, as they say. So the report entails details about every element inspected. You do get to see exactly what our endoscopic camera saw as well. So all of those photos will be there. So you'll actually get to see a deeper look inside your elements also. We rate it for future performance and if there are any risks to the residents or tenants. And again, if there are any repairs needed, we would let you know. The state requires that you keep your report for a minimum of 2 cycles. That's 12 years for apartments, 18 years for condos. First deadline for everybody, January 1st. And something that we've, at least in Los Angeles, since they're finally implementing a system, they let us know that the building inspectors, so during your routine, I think it's every 3 years, that a building inspector comes out, they too will be asking you for these reports to take a look at them. I think we're approaching the end of these slides. Lastly, some of the differences so under SB721, a civil engineer, architect, structural engineer, B general, building inspector, or a C5 framing contractor all must have a certain amount of years of experience, can do your report and inspection. For SB326, must be a structural engineer or architect. I believe they are working on this to amend and I think allow the same for SB721 to do the inspections and reports for 326. As soon as that passes, I will send another blast and let everybody know. But for now, these are the rules. We have it all covered, whether you're an apartment building or a condo or HOA. If there are any emergency repairs, and again, just for emergency repairs, you must restrict access immediately. This goes for both apartments and condos. Apartments do have a 240-day timeline or deadline. It's 120 days to pull a permit for whatever needs to be fixed, and then another 120 days to complete that repair. SB326, because they're individually owned, you don't technically have the same type of deadline. You must restrict access, or let's say it's an owner's balcony. You must inform them. Do not go on. It's your discretion. As long as you have proof that you inform them, You told them to not go on their balcony. There isn't anything that says you must put caution tape or anything, but use your discretion to what you want to do in terms of restricting access. And if it is an emergency repair, the city or county will expect you to work on it. But as long as you restricted access right away, you're not under a certain like clock. But anything that's like super hazardous, somebody could die, yes, you're expected to work on it. So that does it for our the first part of our webinar today, going over at least those general rules. If there are no questions, I'll now just briefly go into an SB721 report that we recently did. If you're a property manager with condos, still stick around because the reports look the same. This one will just be shorter to go over, but at least you'll see what they look like. So let's see. Okay. Let's see if this will allow me to share my screen. Okay, I do see a question while I fix my share screen status. Can you inspect via the light fixtures? Insert the camera into the light fixture. I don't think we've really done that because usually the light fixtures are usually, there's a can that's there if it's like a recessed light. So there would be a can preventing our camera from really going through to see the structural components or the joists. And not only that, we don't just do our boreholes at random. We do them specifically where we see certain cracks and damage. So that way we can actually see if there was intrusion or any issue to that affected area. So more than likely a light fixture would have some internal blockage that won't allow us to see like the subfloor or anything like that. And it may or may not be in the area that the crack or damage or a big potted plant that cracked and soaked through would be. So that's why we have to do it based on where the damage is, and typically from our own hole in between the joists, because they are set, I believe it's like 14 inches apart or something like that. We try to get right in the middle so we can see. What does the area look like after the hole is made and used? Excellent question. So again, it's just a 2-inch clean hole that we then cover, of course, with a stainless steel vent that allows for proper ventilation permanently, basically, or indefinitely. And these vents can then also be used for your subsequent inspections in the future. So you don't have to worry about additional holes unless, of course, significant damage happened in between inspections, and there's another area that the inspector needs to test. But as long as you're keeping up with your maintenance, you should be able to use those same boreholes. The vents allow for ventilation in case of any rains or moisture as well. So it is a very clean stainless steel vent that gets put on it. And it's kind of like a grid. It's very tight, so things can't go in, but it does allow for ventilation. All right, I'm just going to, let's see. Not sure why it's not letting me share. So let me try one thing. Let's see. Bear with me for just a moment. You know, I don't think it's trying to get me to completely restart my my whole Chrome. So I don't really want to do that right now because then I'll lose everybody. I will just make the report another webinar. So I'm sorry if that's what you were hopping in here today, but there are technical difficulties. So it's not allowing me to share my screen. Let's see. Unless I wonder if this would. work, actually. No, it's not. It's not letting me share my screen at all. So I will troubleshoot that. And once it's fixed, I'll make that our next webinar, actually. But at least you have now all of your general rules. If you have any further questions, give us a call. You can email me. I will put my balcony email in the chat. And I guess in case you were sticking around for the report, I'll just kind of go through it off the top of my head. What our report and what most reports include is a list of all of the elements inspected, what their ratings are. We personally rate them from a level 1 through 5, 1 being a perfect element, 5 being extremely hazardous, which that's when we would suggest that you restrict access. The most that we've been seeing, of course, are 3s, because most property owners and management companies are not doing their required maintenance. The suggested maintenance for all surfaces are 3 to 5 years, that you should at least be doing waterproofing, resealing, to always help trap out moisture, sealing cracks, especially to make sure tiny hairline cracks do not become bigger. I think one of our measuring tools is if you can fit maybe it's either a dime or a penny or something through. Imagine how much water can get inside. And as you can tell, especially if you're living in Southern California or maybe all parts, it has been raining quite a lot. Feels like Florida all of a sudden. But that is not good for the elements if you are not maintaining the proper waterproofing and suggested maintenance every 3 to 5 years. So that is why the average that we've been seeing are 3s, a bunch of 4s as well. And you have to be careful because the 4s can easily turn into 5s. Something, again, I will add, because we get a lot of these questions, can the inspector do the repairs? Yes, that was amended shortly after the statute came out, that yes, the inspector can do the repairs. You're not obligated to use that inspector for the repairs in case you're worried about conflict of interest. And as I mentioned, and as I wish I could show in the report today, we show you all of the proof from our visual, endoscopic, everything. We show you our photos, we show you our moisture readings. If there is a lot of damage, we'll be able to show you exactly what we saw, the affected joists, any rot, any water damage, stuff like that. So we would show you everything. We would give you our recommendations, cost-efficient recommendations as well. So we're really just here to help make your elements safe, especially after what happened at UC Berkeley. So give us a call, 323-BALCONY. You could reach us. Honestly, you can try any of our phone numbers because we're all one office for one team. We just have these divisions just to help everybody a little easier. And join us next time. I promise I will go over an actual report once I get my Chrome to work with my streaming program here. So thank you everybody for joining me today. Give us a call or email me if you want any free quotes. If you're a property management company with a big portfolio and you need to get this taken care of, send them our way. We will help. And let's see, if you already did your inspection and you need help with the report, need to know what to do, you can send it our way as well. So we do everything from inspections, repairs, waterproofing, structural plans, whatever it is. So thank you, everybody. I'm Helen with One Structural, and this was our Balcony One webinar today. See you guys next time. Bye.